you changing the stream thing here. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, kind of one cancer. The other two never had you hear me?
I'm hearing.
You hear me, sir?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, you hear me? Yeah, me change it because other two never had a connect, so I just stream it to two other page. Just so don't waste the opportunity for stream.
Yeah, the page start connect.
You hear me?
The page connect back.
No, it's a different the page that no. I mean just connect it to the page. No, I not it. It's a different thing, sir. I mean just connect it to the page itself and not the account. The account never had a connect for some reason.
Oh, okay.
All right. It seems like we have some. It seems like we have some delay. Let me just jump out and jump back in. Come fast. One second.
Okay. All right. So Paul is saying that all these that you read about in the scriptures pertain to the Israelites. Bottom line of what he said. But let's examine further some of the writings that Paul made. The one that you hold in there is again Romans 10, 1-3.
One time. The book of Romans chapter 10 verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahweh for Israel is that they might be saved.
Hey, somebody phone ringing.
Good luck, yes, sir. I don't know how to stop it. I'll have to jump out other one.
All right. So like it's stopped. All right. My heart's desire and prayer to God is for, and here he is again. He's not praying for the country Israel. He's praying for the people Israel. There was no country existed before 1948 with that name. So in the Bible, when you come across the word Israel, it's not talking about the country. It's talking about the people. It's talking about Jacob's seed, Jacob's descendants, who today is identified as the blacks, the Hispanics, and the natives that are around this side of the world. Of course,
right.
we are scattered throughout all the world, but the main concentration is right around here. Hey, Shalom, Officer Sawat.
Yes, Shamishmata. Shamishmata.
Shalom, Yahweh, Shim no Shabbat.
You can continue.
All right. But next verse, no.
Khan, verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Yahweh, but not according to knowledge.
Right. If you notice our people, you know, they talk about God quite often. So they have this zeal of God. But the zeal that they have of God is not according to knowledge, meaning that they talk about God, but they don't really know how God operates. They don't know what God like. They don't know how they should relate to God. They don't know what to do really to praise God. You follow the pastor. Nah, follow the Bible. And the proper way to follow the Bible, come into the truth. And we show you how. Right? The zeal that our people have of God, blacks, Hispanics, and natives. When you check the Hispanics, you know, they are what? Catholic, from the crown to the sole. From the crown of the head to the sole of the feet. They are Catholics. Because, you know, the enemy or the oppressor knows that we have a zeal for God. So they just teach you God in another way. Because the zeal that you have of God is not according to knowledge. So they erase the little knowledge that you had before and implant, engraft their false knowledge. Sorry. Their, next verse.
Sodom gone. So they, being ignorant of Yahweh's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Yahweh.
So from the time of what? Think of when this was written. Right after Christ died. And Paul was saying this. Yeah, you have a zeal for God, but the zeal you have of God is not according to knowledge, you know. And, you know, because you are ignorant of God's righteousness, meaning you don't know the things that God loves, you don't know the laws, you don't know his rules. It's like your parents in your house. Every house have their own rules. You know, every country have their rules. So why we think that God don't have rules? Why do we think that is we set the boundaries for God and not God set the boundaries for man? This is how we behave as a people, as a nation. You know, we set the boundaries for God. And how we set the boundary for God? We say, God know my heart. Yeah, God know your heart, yes, He know that it is wicked and corrupt and deceitful. And going about to establish their own righteousness. So because you don't know God's rules, you're going to set up your own rules. But not so. God doesn't operate that way. All right, take me now to Romans chapter 7. We're going to read mostly Romans 7. Starting from 1.
God on Khan. The book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over man as long as he liveth.
So, right here in verse 7, Paul is, all right, when you read about most of Paul's writings, Paul is telling you that, all right, to the untrained Christian mind and to the mind in the world, you get the impression that Paul is telling you not to keep the law. But here, he's telling you, speaking to those who actually know the law, that the law have dominion over man for as long as he lives. I was reading a story last night, a little story about a male and a female. It was it was a Jake in the world. So it was an Israelite man and woman. So you know the woman now was the one to say and they call this again like they want a break from the relationship. Let's take a break, right? She said, let's take a break. So the man said, all right, if you want a break, And she explained to him why she want a break. She said why she struggle with well, call it adultery, but that's not the word she used. But basically, that's what she was talking about. She struggled with adultery, and she don't want to do otherwise. She don't want to be no trouble to the man. So let's take a break. Man said, all right. And then I think I say, so hold on. When you take a break and you gone, the man away for you for maybe a week or two. What you out there doing? So, you know, we worshiping the Most High God is in a similar way. We can't take a break from God. We can't say, boy, you know, whoa, these laws are so struggling. I want a break. I said, okay, okay, Yahweh, let's take a break. Get back to these laws in a week's time. It doesn't work like that. And Paul is telling us straight up, as long as you live, these laws have dominion over you. Read on.
God. So then, if, while her husband liveth, she
verse 2.
God, for the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband.
So, you know, that woman I just referred to, she need to read this. The woman which hath an husband is bound by the law of her husband. Does it say bound by her law in the relationship?
Right,
Right, it says the law of her husband, so long as he liveth. Go on. That's it.
God.
You finished too?
God.
All right. But if the husband is dead, if the husband be dead, she is loose from the law of her husband. Well, guess what? Too bad for it. The Most High can't dead, so the law won't change. We serve a God that doesn't die, doesn't sleep, doesn't eat.
Right.
So there's no break from the law. As long as he lives, we're under his law. Read on.
God. So then, if, while her husband liveth, she may be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress.
Right. So it's the same law that keep on getting us Israelites in trouble when it comes to what's the word again? Worshipping other gods, idolatry. Because as long as the Most High God lives and and you go and worship some other God, then you are committing a sin against God. So Paul is explaining it through man and woman relationship because it's governed by the same. If you notice throughout the Bible, you know, Moses calls us a war. So we always go a war them against him. You know, our relationship with God is just like the relationship between a man and a woman. So while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, like she divorced and go to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. This was what Christ was explaining when he talked about the reasons for divorce. Sorry, yes. So you can't leave the woman unless she commit adultery. Then you can leave her. But here now, if there's no divorce, she shall be called an adulteress, but if her husband be dead, meaning is now out of the picture, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. That's what this is telling him. All right, read verse 4.
So like your other one, we're halfway through verse 3. You want to end of verse 3?
Yeah, finish verse.
God won't can. But if her husband be dead,
Just start it over from 3. Let's read all of it.
God won't can. So then if, while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from the law, from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man.
Right, verse 4.
God unkind. Wherefore, by my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Hamashiach, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Yahweh.
Right. So many tongue and war and being at war with the Most High God. You know, Christ came and end all that. So our commitment now is not to, well, we still follow God's law, but our commitment now is through Christ. In other words, we now become married to Christ. That's why Christ gave all them parable about the bridegroom and so on and so forth. Because it is now He, referring to Christ, who is now going to come to salvage you from this world, who is going to tie you back to the Most High God. Because, you know, we actually declare war against the Most High God once we start to tell him, so we're not keeping that law. Them law too hard. No man can keep them the law there. We're not keeping nothing now. We're not staying in the land. We're going on our own. What we actually did when we do all that thing, you know, we declare war against God. How can you war that? How can you war a being that, you know, can take the battle between you and him, take the strife between you and him, down to your great grandchildren? How can you do that? But I guess you weren't thinking. Guess you weren't thinking. Next verse.
God unkind. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
Right. So Paul writing here now is as if, you know, he's not writing from the grave. When he said when we were in the flesh, it means we were living spiritually. Because yeah, we weren't living spiritually in Jerusalem. We were living and doing things because the law said don't do it, rather than develop a spirit. In other words, develop a spirit for the love of your brother. Develop a spirit for not eating unclean meat. Not because you are afraid of what will happen to you, but because that's what God wants. Right, so we were in the flesh then, the motions of sin which were by the law. And what he mean by that is, because of the law you know sin. If it wasn't for the law, you would know that it is wrong to eat pork, crab, shrimp, lobster. You wouldn't know
That's
that
right.
Yeah, you would know that it is wrong to not marry a man.
Right.
You would know that it is wrong to commit adultery.
That's right.
But it's because the law is there why we know it is wrong. The motions of sin, when we were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit. Read on.
But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter.
So the letter is referring to what? What is the letter referring to?
Sir.
We should serve in the
You know what I mean?
newness
Like,
of spirit.
thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. And the
The flesh.
penalties that, you know what I mean, come with you.
And the what?
You hear me?
Yeah, man. And the, repeat that part, and the what that comes.
And the penalties that,
Exactly.
yeah, the penalties that come with breaking them.
Exactly. So that is what he's referring to. The punishment of the law, or the judgment of the law. And not in the oldness of the letter, but the newness of spirit. So referring to what? Living a spiritual life. So this is where a lot of people go wrong now. We believe that living a spiritual life means you don't follow the law. No? Or are you going to live a spiritual life without rules? Last week we looked at the fruit of the Spirit. And we saw that the fruit of the Spirit manifests in you because you follow the law. So here now, that's why in 5 he said of members to bring forth fruit unto death. Right? Did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. So it shows you if you live by flesh, what fruit you going to bear. And if you live by the Spirit, what fruit you shall bear. So being delivered from sin. But now we are delivered from the law. So in other words, even though, and you have to remember that while Paul was alive, Jerusalem was there, so people were still being stoned for adultery and so on. But there were some brothers or some other Jews who was out there, not in Jerusalem. They might commit adultery, but they are not being stoned. They might eat pork, they're not being stoned. So being delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit. But they were doing those things that the law said, not because they would be stoned if they don't, but because they want to do it. Not in the oldness of the letter. So we're doing it by spirit and not by the judgment of it. Right? So you have a law that says, don't speed past 80. Now, you don't speed past 80 not because you don't want a ticket, but because you want to be safe. So you don't eat pork, don't eat crab, shrimp, and lobster, adultery and those things you don't do, not because you don't want to be stoned, but because you want to follow what God said you should do. That is, living in the Spirit is basically you developing a love for the things that God wants you to do. Because if you remember the scribes and the Pharisees, they were struggling with Christ and with the law because They know that they must keep the law, but at the same time, they want to do their own thing. So there was a lot of manipulation, and you know, the law say, honor your mother and your father, and then say, whatever we do for mother and father is a gift, right? So they will be manipulated. No way different today. You listen to these pastors, it's the same thing, you know. They're being manipulated. These pastors are not going to tell you, it's, well, you have some of them who will tell you straight up, doing pork. But at the same time, while them say doing pork, you kind of business of food, salt mackerel. Because salt mackerel is unlawful meat. Same way, it's fish without scale. Right? So this part now is a intricate part in what Paul wants to get at. Now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held. So it was as if the law held them hostage. That we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter. Verse 7.
What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
So Paul is defending the law. So why don't Christians go off and say, the law can't save you, in Christ every follow, the law can't save you? Why they do that? Because they want excuses for their sin, yeah.
In a way, the Christian church kind of make it seem like keeping the law is sin. The way every time, you know what I mean, would have bring up how important the law is, the pushback with them give, you know, is as if keeping the law is the sin. You know what I mean? And them breaking the law is what Christ wanted them to do. You know what I mean? So what Paul is the writer so important. You know what I mean?
And yet,
you're a Christian.
And yet still never
the law is not sin. The law is not.
You never hear the church quote this verse here. I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. So lusting is covetousness, and the law says, do not covet.
Until
yes. One.
Yeah, quick and fast, sir. Till when you tell them, when you break it down to them now, you would have said, so all right, since you're not supposed to keep the law, as you that said, sin is real as sin. Oh, I must say, yeah, rape is a sin. But if the law never said rape is a sin, or we know that rape is a sin. You know what I mean? You have people out here committing that act out here. Then, you know what I mean? It would have seemed like rape good. But the law tell us that, yo, them things are wrong. So they fall over them stumble over them own teachings. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is murder. When a child dies violently, you see how vexed and angry and irritated the entire country get. So if you know, sir, it is wrong to kill a child. How you know that? Except the law did said, because what's the difference? You go and you kill a child, and you go and you drop a bomb on a country. You're not so irritated about the bomb dropping and kill 100 people one time, but you are very angry at one child being killed. And yet still, you being angry, still preach that the law is done away with.
So, okay, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and this is why again it's so important. And as we say, we speak in their language now, and as we say, reading comprehension. As we say, when you really look at it, again, these religious organizations, they don't actually finish, reading the letter, right? Because just as you say in the last part of verse 6, and not the oldness of the letter, right? Verse 7 now, so now it's like a continuing reading. So they would just read that and stop right there. And this is why readers ask us. So now they hear, and not at the oldest of the letter. So one time they say, look, the Lord on our way with. But right to the bottom, it say, what shall we say then? So it's like we in the ISUPK and the Commander General YAHANNA, we would, as we say, be teaching. Now you might hear we use a phrase or use a term or use a word. Then what we do after, we say understand, and then what we say, all right, let me explain it to you, because based on your carnal thinking, as we say, just as in the flesh, and when you read higher up, it's talking about your members, intertwined, with things at this society, things that that they've been trained and brought up in. Now to understand that that your spirit had there swaying from the truth where the Most High God, as any good father would want to follow. Now I explain it to you. This is why it's spiritual. So this is why again reading comprehension, or as we say, or listening to righteous black men who have been, or who has the spirit of the Lord on them, in following after the instructions. This is the only way you would really grasp and get that understanding. That as any blacks, Latinos, or Native Indian, in seeking out the truth and the spirit of the Lord coming on you. This is the only way you get. Right? So
Right. Just like Paul said, our righteousness is basically of our own. We don't know the right way to be righteous when it comes to God. So we go and make our own. That's how we end up with Rastafarianism. And what else? Or like the Mayans, Incans, what was the other one again? Aztecs. They had their own religion. And then there was the Native Indians. Oh, they had so much. Today is the god of the thunder. Yeah, that is we making our own righteousness.
right.
Not to mention the ones that the other nations put on us. Christianity, as you know it, Western Christianity, and Muslim, plus many other ones. Hinduism, a lot of our people, and it's as if we now searching, looking at these people, and say, why, these things that them burn incense to, that something there, and see them rich. They try to, maybe we can reach to. You understand? Not knowing that for you, it's according to knowledge, and your knowledge supposed to tell you that you do that, why you declaring war against God. So God is going to curse. You notice this deportation taking place in America, it's more spiritual than physical,
Right.
Yeah, man. Way more spiritual than physical. Why so many? Basically, it's all the 12 tribes.
Correct.
It's all Israelites that it is geared at. Right. So, I mean, that is because we had declared war against God and we're gone off into other things. and other places. You remember this story with Jeremiah when, what if we can find it? When the captivity was, Babylonian captivity was at its start, and there was a set who said they are going to Egypt. You remember that story?
The pull of that. The pull of that. So unfamiliar.
So lucky, sir. And meanwhile, you know what I mean? Just to add to your point. Just to add to your point, sir. You know what I mean? It's spiritual for real. Because you can imagine Iran, I say, dead to America, establish some kind of ceasefire and peace treaty with them. But yet still, you know what I mean? Blacks and Hispanics who just come across the border to make a localize themselves. Him a wage full-blown war at them, you know what I mean? Him a wage full-blown war at God's people. Meanwhile, in real enemies, them, I said, death to America. And him a seek peace with them. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, it's spiritual for real, man. Yeah.
And those who are of us, those are for people that are coming across the border. They are not preaching any violence against America or against ourselves, the white men. They just say, why things rough over where we did. We want to change. That's all they're saying, you know. Right. So it's the Most High that is moving up the spirit. Moving the spirit against us. There might be no reason for doing it, you know. Part of the extraction. Let me see if we can find it. Jeremiah 7:18. All right, Jeremiah 7:18. Sorry.
Salaki, is that chapter 7?
Yeah, Jeremiah chapter 7. All right, we're not going to read all of it. I'll show you where you go. Read verse 30.
One's three, other one.
30. 30.
Chapter 7 only goes up to verse 25, other one.
Jeremiah, I'm saying no.
Salakia. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, verse 30. For the children of Judah have done evil in my sight, saith the Lord. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to pollute it.
All right. Yeah. So the Most High telling them that, okay, you have done evil. This was the punishment that was coming for a king that was not on the throne, you know. That king dead and gone long time. It's about the third king come on the throne after that king. And the Most High is bringing the punishment.
Right.
Under this king. Oh, you're going to worry. You can't worry. And what was the punishment? We're going to go to that. Let me try and find. So the most I tell them straight, tell Jeremiah to tell them, say, they did evil. Alright, you listen to what 19 says. Jeremiah 44. Alright, go to Jeremiah 44 now. Read verse 19.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 44, verse 19. And when we burned incense to the Queen of heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men?
All right, drop down to 28, 29, and 30.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 44, verse 28. Yet a smaller number that escaped the sword shall return out of the land of Egypt into the land of Judah. And all the remnant of Judah that are gone into the land of Egypt to sojourn there shall know whose word shall stand, mine or theirs.
That's a conflict right there, you know. That's a conflict right there. All right, you saying X, me saying Y. Let me see whose word's gonna stand. And this is what God is telling them. Let me see which one of our words gonna stand. Next verse.
And this shall be a sign unto you, saith the Lord, that I will punish you in this place, that ye may know that my words shall surely stand against you for evil.
Now imagine these people go to Egypt, and next thing you know, when they look around them, they see people making strides and nothing happening for them. Next verse.
Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will give Pharaoh, Hophra, king of Egypt, into the hand of his enemies, and into the hand of them that seek his life, as I gave Zedekiah, king of Judah, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, his enemy, and that sought his life.
Right. How you gonna fight him? This is the ultimate battle warrior you're fighting in. This is a man who knows about battle strategy. He know when to wait and he know when to shoot. And he is shooting us, he's shooting against us now. Right? We know it's only we have to recognize the spiritual aspect of what is happening now and make the right move. You know, we go have to, just like the scripture said, the earth helped the woman. We go have to now study records and see what happened when we did try to raise ourselves up. Yeah, because in the early time, in the time of Marcus Garvey, you remember the Tulsa race riot? When them burned down Black Wall Street, you remember that story? All right. Did you know that Marcus Garvey organization helped in the restoration and in the assisting these victims, our people, through the organization that was there was the Black Cross Nurses, which was the women, and you know what they put the name under there, say him and the organization, the Black Cross Nurses. Then I said Marcus Garvey I'm talking about the official Congress records, you know. Then I said Marcus Garvey, they said Marvin Garvey. Right? So the warfare against us is spiritual. It keep happening. It keep happening. It keep happening. Why? It's not for a lack of trying that we are in the state that we are. It's not for a lack of trying that so many of us have to be running to America to find an oppressive job. Because when we go over there, what do you think we'll go over there and get an oppressive job? It's not a lack of trying that we find ourselves being deported. How many Jamaicans they sent home last month?
Still okay, I don't know the number, but I know there's one very famous is an entertainer who used to link with Vibes Cartel named Devabrat. See? Yeah. Him now in ICE custody. Yeah, so them really ramp up the deportation of evil Jamaicans. I mean,
yeah.
I don't remember who should deported. Our Asian brothers there. Not yet. I mean, ICE custody. As far as we see on social media.
In ICE custody.
So, you know what I mean? So Jamaicans are not exempt. Yeah, kind of that.
Right. So I think it was 100 and something. They have approximately 300 to 400 Jamaicans to deport over a 3-month period. So they are doing like 100 each month. So last month,
okay,
100 this month, another 100 coming. The Asians, well, the Asians are the only ones so far who went on a war path with ICE. But the government going to fight back. They are going to send the Marines in that region shortly. You're going to see that. And it's going to just continue. It's one way out for us. Yeah.
Yeah, can sir. So like you, sir. I guess our Asian brothers being so used to fighting and winning are thinking that them fight and win from the time of the French.
Yeah.
And some of them even consider what going over there in Haiti right now as a victory.
Right.
So this fight where you see that the Asian brothers and sisters them is that, you know what I mean, a mindset, but what they need to understand, like what you say, sir, which is very important what you say. You know what I mean? Them can't fight that battle by themselves, and there's no winning without the Most High. So, you know what I mean? And the oppressor, he will come down hard, very hard upon them. Understand? So
at the earliest we can realize that the only way out is to come under command in General YAHANNA. The better it is going to be for only one way out.
Right.
Of all this deportation. They're going to have to organize themselves. They are going to have to find the ISUPK under command in General YAHANNA and submit. Because
that's right.
100 Jamaicans came out here last week. What do you think they come to? Business? They come to join the pool of unemployed people. And what is going to happen now? They have some experience and skills that the ordinary man wouldn't have. Just a matter of time before they start using it. You know. And next thing you're going to see, you know, maybe crime start go up again. No matter how much they talk about, they're going to
definitely, sir.
They can't do nothing. They can't do nothing. It's another spiritual warfare that is hitting us. It hit us in the turn of the century, early 19 something. When they burned Black Wall Street. By the way, you know that where the Pentagon sits now, a black town was there that they got rid of. During World War II, they got rid of a lot of the black towns. Because why? They were striving. They were making progress. They were not coming to the white man and begging for anything. They were surviving. It wasn't easy, but there was a glimmer of hope. And it all closed. And then it's happening again now.
Right.
Why? That's the first thing we need to find out as a people. One way out. Find Commanding General YAHANNA through the ISUPK and come. That's the only way out. Be at peace with God. But I think you think a lot of those people that get deported, you think they are not Christians? As a matter of fact, didn't ICE raid in the earlier part? Didn't ICE raid some churches and hold on to some Hispanics? Didn't that happen?
Salakia, sir. Say that again. My internet a chip in and out, sir. Salakia.
In the earlier part of the deportation, didn't ICE raid some churches as well? And grab some Hispanics?
Salakia, I don't hear of none, but more unlikely, you know what I mean? The way them are going.
And they were saying, some of the people were saying, the church and to come up to speak out because even though they are illegal alien immigrants, they pay the tithes. So the church will speak out.
Right, can.
They are not the only illegal immigrants.
Salakia, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
Salakia, sir. You touch a heavy point, you know, because you can imagine how much Hispanics full up them church there in America. You know what I mean? How much illegal immigrants. You know what I mean? And after them work them minuscule wage on them plantation there, then them come give the pastor 10% and more.
Yeah.
And then now when them get, you know what I mean, rounded up and ship out of the country, not a word from Christian church them, Slakia.
Yes, and these are the same people who tell us they are good white men. So if they are good white men, why they always turn them back on us when we are in distress? When they were killing them, when they were destroying the black communities, guess what was present in those black communities? Churches. Every single one of them had churches there. Which means that they were what? Means that they were Christians. There was no... When they were destroying the black communities, churches were there. There was no Hindu temple, there was no Muslim mosque, there was no Rastafari and this and that. What was there? And there was no ISUPK in them. ISUPK. The truth wasn't out yet, but just to show you that the church was there. Christians were there. Which is why we tell you that don't think that what is coming now, they are going to be able to save you. Never. As a matter of fact, many of us became Christians on the slave ship. Went into slavery as Christians. The church out here used to have slaves.
Gun.
And they used to have this bringing in the saints.
Salakia, sir, if I may.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can imagine being rounded up. Salakia, quick and fast, sir. I can imagine being rounded up, you know what I mean, while worshiping the same God as the oppressor. You know what I mean?
That's my point.
You worship the same God as the oppressor. And in that oppressor mind, you are bad and you deserve to be deported while worshiping the same God as the oppressor. You know what I mean? So Christianity basically just make our people a sitting duck, you know, when you check it, you know, because, you know what I mean, the love where the Hispanics are going to have for the oppressor because of Christianity are going to make them stay there and think that this oppressor are going to show them mercy and love. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, the oppressor look at them as bad, even though them are worship the same God as him. You know what I mean? This don't make sense at all.
So while they are in the church, you know, and they are looking at these Hispanics and illegal immigrants, you know what they are praying for? I pray that the government would come and take out them and send them back home. But when it is greetings time, when it is greetings time, you know the greeting song where the cheerful greeting song where they sing and go around and hug up each other and play. Love wonderful love. Exactly. Now listen to that song. Love wonderful love. Love of God to me.
Love wonderful love. So rich, so pure, so free.
So rich, so pure, so free. And yet still, the same white people them with them in the church, them same Hispanic brothers are in the church, I go up and sing with. Love wonderful love. Before they even go home, you know, them I say, where is them man? One ice can't go take them out here.
Salakia, sir.
Yeah.
If I may, sir. So, the oppressor, I pray for the most I get rid of the illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, the illegal immigrants, I pray that them able to can stay in the country and get legal. So, which one God I go listen to? Because the same God them I pray to, you know. Who God I go listen to? You understand?
It's the one that have the power. Which one of them have the power? The one that is praying for you to get the
one
them have the power. Right? They have the power to move you out. And that is the one that is winning. Right? That's the power that is winning. To get us out. But like I said, this is spiritual. What is happening to us as a people? Purely spiritual. Don't bother think that it is just happening because like we as Jamaican love so boy I saw things set up. Nobody thinks I just boy I saw things set up. No. Get your head in the game and try and understand the game that is being played against you. Because if it were that the oppressor should ever be permitted to win this game, the next 200 years would still be at their feet. But this game won't be like the others of the past. It's going to be terrible. But because we serve a God of war, his plan, take his people out and leave them to fight against each other. Let them kill off each other. You know? This game that we're in is very serious. And what Paul was writing about, it's a similar thing. You not understanding sin, the law, and then you going to say you putting away the law Paul could put away the law because Paul understood the law. He said if it wasn't the law, me would know some of it lust. I would know that covetousness is a sin if it wasn't for the law. Understand? All right, what's the next verse there?
Go.
So like the next verse is chapter. You're still in Jeremiah, other one.
No man, we'll finish with Jeremiah, man. Jeremiah verse Romans. Making points in Romans. We use Jeremiah to show that you can't go to war, God. You dare not try and go against God.
Verse 8.
Right?
Talon Khan. The book of Romans chapter 7 verse 8. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead.
Right. In other words, without the law, there was no sin. But sin was taking occasion by the commandment and building in conspicuence. Without the law, sin was dead. So if you are going to say the laws are done away with, then I mean, don't cry when you see some things that you consider to be terrible, because there's no law against them. Verse 9. Verse 9.
Talon Khan. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died.
I was out without the law. At one time, once in my life, I was without the law. But the commandments came. Sin came. Because with the commandment came the law. And I died. Because then you realize that you are in so much sin. Verse 10.
Talon Khan. And the commandment, which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death.
Right. And it found it to be unto death because what's the punishment of sin? Only punishment of sin is really death, you know. Ultimately, it's death. Next verse.
Talon Khan. For sin taking occasion by the commandment deceived me, and by it slew me.
Right, next one.
Talon Khan. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good.
Right. So Paul did not dismiss the law as the Christians are doing today. The commandment is holy. It is what? Separate. And the law is holy. And it's just and it's good. 13.
Talon Khan. Was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid. But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by commandment might become exceeding sinful.
All right. So Paul, I'm getting a speed now where this is the part now when start mix up a lot of the Christian debate, you know. Yeah. God forbid. But sin, that it might appear as sin, work death in me by which is good. Which is why Christ tell you that, you know, to be the old man have to die to follow him. Basically. Because what you're doing, you're putting away the things that you knew. or that you think you knew. It's just like coming into the truth. A person reading the Bible from cover to cover and coming to the truth, believing that you're going to believe that you know the Bible. You know? Yeah, you're going to know it and know, say, there is so many verses in this chapter, and there is so many chapters in this book, and so on. But as to the interpretations, when you start getting it, you're going to realize you don't know nothing. You're going to realize that you knew nothing.
Right.
Because now you are learning the right thing. So that is the death Paul is referring to here. It's a spiritual death. That's a spiritual death. Next verse.
God of God. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
And this is where a lot of people go wrong to, because the law is more spiritual than physical. It is more spiritual than physical. You sit here emulating a nation over there. Emulating a brother. You know, I want to be like this brother. I want to do this. In your own little space. When it is wrong. What you should be doing, with what the law said, the law says, so that your character can develop. And to develop your character. And not try to develop a character which is not, it wasn't for you. It was for the next person. So what? That means you don't like yourself. You don't like yourself when you do that. So now we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal. Meaning, you're going to have your little lust after. Whereas if you were somebody who used to smoke, they're excessive drinker, gambler, what else? Those little uncontrolled, a thief. Those uncontrolled behaviors are excessive behaviors. Let's put it that way. Those make you carnal. I mean, covetousness. How difficult is it to covet? How difficult is it for you to see your neighbor in a brand new vehicle and you start to covet it? You can just peep out your window and that happens. But why the Bible speak of it? Speak against it. Because it could be that you see it and you like it, but your idea now is to go and buy a vehicle that you think is a better vehicle than the one I'm buying. So you start competing with it. So would that be bad or good? What would make it bad?
Because it leads to covetousness.
It not lead to covetousness. It is covetousness.
Because it is covetousness. So
But the thing is, you might not act on it in a negative way. But it is the seed now that is sown for terrible things to happen. Yeah, you might just see him being attacked or something, and you could have helped, and you don't. The covetousness now, that seed that is sown, or covetous seed, brings out some things which are way more dangerous. Why do you think you have so much killing amongst us? Why do you think the oppressor don't like you? Deep in covetousness, deep in bad mind. But he's so good at it to spin it on you that you think is you is you bad man, or you spin it on the people and say, I don't turn bad for true, man, and we won't stop. But the bad mind is coming from his side. But the law wasn't given to him. You get my point? The law was given to you. So when you break the law, the only way you can fight him, you know, is for you to keep the law so that the spirit is with you and not against you. Which is why we read Jeremiah. But the Most High said, you will know that I am with you for evil and not for good. Now you hear something like that coming out of God's prophet mouth, and you don't break, as the first time people say break up, you follow go. You don't make a change, man. You should. Imagine God send a man now and tell you that I'm going to be with you I'm going to watch over you for evil. Which means that what? I'm going to make pure destruction take you. Yeah. Because we're in a spiritual warfare. So, you know, it's only in the ISUPK you can learn how to fight these spiritual battles. And it's not a secret, because every time we have class, we tell them, keep the laws. That's how you fight it. Right? But don't think you can go there and keep the laws on your own. You come to class and learn. Ask questions too. Read the scriptures and ask questions. Ask for the proper breakdowns. Right? That's how you learn. Next verse.
Right. Can't. For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would that I do, I not. But what I hate, that do I.
So what I'm getting into now is that spiritual battle between the things that is spiritual and the things that are carnal. The spiritual things that you should be doing, that's not what the body wants. The body wants some rum, the body wants some whores, the body wants some weed. The body wants to go out there and, what's the word again? Excessive partying, revel. The body wants to revel. The body wants to see some woman in some sexy clothes and you go on. That's what the body wants. So I'm getting into the spiritual and carnal battle. Go on. And that's a battle for us. We're the only nation that fight that. The other nation don't know anything about it because the law did not pertain to them. Pertain to us. Read on.
God. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good.
If I do which I would not, you consent to the law that it is good. Next verse.
God. Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
Right. So your consent, all right. So the sin that is dwelling in you is what is pushing you to do these things that you should not be doing. Read on.
Salakia, sir.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, hear me, sir?
Go on, I'm hearing you.
And that scripture, this particular scripture is a cut again to the Christian church. See in verse 16, him said, if then I do that which I would not, meaning the things where him would not, meaning keeping the law, but him do them. keep breaking the law and thing, I consent unto the law that it is good. Meaning, if you continue breaking the law, you understand, it's proof that the law is good. You understand? Paul try to show you say the law is good, as opposed to the Christian church would have wanted. Make it out for thee. See? Let me read it again. If then I do that which I would not. I remember the verse before it, he must say. So go ahead, sir.
No, man, I say, yeah, because it is the yardstick now that you're going to measure your actions.
Go ahead, sir.
The yardstick. It's the yardstick that you're going to measure your action. Finish what you're saying.
Yeah, can. Because verse 15 says, for that which I do, I allow not. For what I would not, that do I. You know what I mean? He said, that do I. Slakia. Let me read it again. He said, would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I. Verse 16, if then I do that which I would not. Meaning, he might tell us, you know what I mean? We do things contrary to the law. See, the things where you do contrary to the law, you know what I mean? It consent unto the law that it is good. You know what I mean? Right. So when the Christian church read this scripture now, you know what I mean? They can't just skip past this with say, boy, the law is nailed on the cross with Christ. Paul I tell you, say the law is good. Him consent to the law because when he break the law and realize it, like what Sarah said, say, yo, these are the evil things that I have been doing. See? It convict him. You know what I mean? Now him realize, you know, say I've been a sinner. You know, the law is really necessary because without the law, I would even know say me a sin. The law is definitely good. You know what I mean? Exactly. But you know what I mean? Listen to them pastor. Slack you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And also you realize that in telling you, you realize that in Paul writings was after Christ was crucified. And Paul has never tell you that don't keep the law because the law was nailed on the cross, so don't bother keeping it. That's where the first teaching would come from, if that was the case. But here is he telling you that the law points out the evils, the sins in you. So it means then that you should be keeping it. You understand?
Gun. You know what I mean? Gun. I mean, so the law is good. Because the law points out where you do wrong. You need the law. In the dark. You know what I mean? So
the man who don't need the law is the man who now would be not sinning. And that was Christ.
Gun.
And how did Christ know about the law? Christ have been studying the law from him a little quickly. I remember when
right.
remember when his parents was searching for him, what they went and find him amongst the lawyers, arguing with them. Because he was studying the law. All right, so where we are now, 17 and 16.
Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
So this is you now. This is when you make sin take you over now. And then it becomes like you give consent to sin, and that which is sinful becomes a norm to you. Verse 18.
God. For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not.
Right, they can't find that in the flesh. You won't find in the flesh what to perform, which is good. So the flesh want to do all these bad things. So the Most High gave us the law to point out the flaws of the flesh. Not for you to put it away and talk about, oh, we are under grace, so we can continue to sin. Romans 6. It's not for us to say, oh, we are under grace now, so we don't need to follow what the law says. Well, the man who's a murderer right now. You know what he's doing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now finish your thoughts, sir. When you're done.
Oh, I said the man who's a murderer know that he's doing a wrong thing, you know. That's why I'm hiding. Go ahead.
Gone. Right. And like what Paul said, he said, no good thing dwelleth in me. You know what I mean? You know why that is? That is because you grew up in a sinful society where them teach, you know what I mean, that sin is good. You know what I mean? Especially if you grew up in a church, then teach you that you don't have to keep the law. So you live in a sinful society where you have become accustomed to sinning.
Yes.
See? You become accustomed to sinning. So, you know what I mean? The law is important now for tell it. See? That is wrong. But now you have a battle because you have become accustomed to sinning. So you have become accustomed to smoking weed. So every time you see somebody with a smoke weed, you get the desire. You know what I mean? That are the battle with Paul that talk about too. Then you get the desire for smoke a spliff. You know what I mean? You get the desire for sleep with whores. You get the desire for do all the evil thing because you have become accustomed to it throughout throughout your existence. But when the law step in now, no, you can't fight. You know what I mean? So we don't. So okay, go ahead, sir.
No, I just say you accept it as right.
Yeah, without the law, you just say, boy, it's right. You know what I mean? Because you don't have no measuring stick like what sir said. There's no measuring stick, but when the law step in now you have to fight. You understand? So to the Christian church now, oh, you would have fight sin without the law. You can't fight sin without the law because the law is the one that make you know, say, boy, that and that is a sin. And the law give you the strength to fight. You know what I mean? And grace through our King Yahushua, him being able to keep the law. You know what I mean? The law give you the know how to fight, because you know what sin is. If you never know, say, stealing is a sin. Well, most people know that. See? But if you never know, say, sleeping with an underage girl is a sin. You understand? Now the law show you, say, look here, man, that what you're doing is an abomination. So now you have the will now to fight, because now you try do what the Most High say. So now you have, but if you're not on a law, bridging, where you know, no buckle ready for fight. You just have to accept your wicked ways, them, and just, you know what I mean, do what you feel like and call it good. Because of this place here where you grew up in, that is a place where tell you say good is evil and evil is good, and that is what you have become. You understand? So the law is very important to the Christian church. Without the law, there's no will, there's no method to fight in sins. If you throw the law through the window, rest assured, say, you're going to be a terrible and disgusting sinner. And that is it. Slack.
But the thing is, you have to be living in the spirit to have that will to fight.
Yeah.
After you discover that these things that you learn from your grandparents, And this was the battle that those in Jeremiah time were having. Because it's about 3 kings, Manasseh, who sat on the throne for about some 50 years, teaching the people them to live a wayward life with idols and things, and kings after him. You're talking about a couple generations of people, right? So when you hold on to tradition now and you say, because you know people love to say, the things that when you see older people do, if you come, if you do. So you see them doing sinful things. But you come now and you learn that it is wrong. But it's the thing where you love, because what's so nice as to keep Christmas? What's so nice as to Easter time to delve in the bun and cheese? Right? But now you learn that you should not do it.
God.
You have to be now living a spiritual life to fight that battle. You have to do that.
God, you know what I mean? And fight the Christmas spirit and the Easter spirit, God.
Yeah, and the birthday, oh, not to mention the birthday spirit. That birthday spirit is strong as well. All right. Officer Arayala, I know you soon want to run off, you know, so give me Romans 6, verse 1 and 2.
Silakia, Romans what? Me not run, sir. I've got slavery though.
6.
And which verse? 1?
Yeah, 1 and 2.
Yeah, Silakia, sir. Silakia, sir. May have slavery to in the next couple of hours as well.
Yeah, man.
So.
That throws off with Romans 6, verse 1 and verse 2.
The book of Romans, chapter 6, verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may be abound?
Right. Shall we continue to sin, that grace may abound? So same thing we're discussing is the same thing Paul talking about. You in sin, don't know that you're in sin. Because as far as you're concerned, these things that you're doing, which sin, the laws now point out to you, is that it is wrong. It's just like you trying to tell somebody that they should not eat pork. What the first thing they tell you? If God didn't want you to eat it, he would make up. You don't want to eat pork, he would make up. Well, in the dog and in the jungle, you eat those. They don't. So that is wrong for you to say. So it's the law now that is going to point out to you what is wrong, and for you to know if what your grandparents are so been telling you, if it is right or it is wrong. But you have to be first get that spiritual garment to fight that battle, because it will be a battle. What? It's gonna be a battle. Whereas if you're one who love eat what you should not eat and do what you should not do, and one who look forward to your Christmas and your birthdays and so on. Verse 2. Next verse.
God on Khan. Yahweh forbid. Salakia, God forbid. How shall we, that are dead to sin, live any longer therein?
Right. So after you train yourself and become dead to sin, no, you can't let nobody try you. You can't let nobody come and tell you that you should not be doing this.
God.
Because you now becoming dead to sin. This is the man now who you say the law have no effect on him. Because he is not doing the things that are wrong. That's the only way the law don't have any effect on you. When you not doing the things that is wrong. You're trying to say something.
Slack, sir. Me that say, you know what I mean? Slack, me that go say, being dead to sin, this I show you say, being dead to sin don't necessarily mean that you can't sin. You know what I mean? So, himself, God forbid, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? You understand? Verse 1 said, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? You know what I mean? That grace, you know what I mean, tie in with, you know what I mean, you won't be dead to sin, you know. Dead to sin don't mean say, you know what I mean, you can't sin, you know. Is you know, stop sinning, stop breaking the law, you know what I mean, will make you no longer, you know what I mean, living in sin. You know what I mean? So Christians would want to say, yo, them dead to sin. Then why you keep breaking the law? So how is it that you know say you are now dead to sin? You know, you still continue to sin. You know what I mean? So this don't mean say true yet. Being dead to sin don't mean say, boy, you're immune to sin. You know what I mean? Like somebody were immune to an illness. It's almost like you get the vaccine and it make you immune. Individual, guess what go on? You're gonna catch something, you're gonna get infected with something. You know what I mean? So the knowledge that you are now dead to sin, meaning that you have grace. Sin doesn't mean that you can't sin. For you is your job. The iotus is on you now for make sure say you're not sin. You understand? So okay.
Exactly, and you can
You
only
still have a
spot that happening.
responsibility even though you know that you're dead. So okay.
And it's only living a spiritual life you can fight that. Only in the spirit. Well, when I say in the spirit, I mean, you know, you're living the things, doing the things because that's what God said to do, rather than why I don't want the punishment. Right? Develop a love for the things that are good. Christians, something to say.
It's not yes, sir. I can vividly remember this thing about law of attraction.
Yeah, law of attraction. I remember that teachings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I run wild on the internet for a good period
Years.
of time.
Couple years.
But then the truth really gives life, the truth really opens your eyes because you're under a curse. But yet you hear law of attraction, they tell you what to do, what to buy, how to present yourself. And even so, with this whole thing about emulation, it is so embedded in us where we don't even realize, even through the very media, right? Wanting to be like other people, wanting to be like other nations. If you don't take on this whole persona, or if you don't apply the law of attraction, then you cannot see success in your life. When true success really comes from um, keeping the laws. And even so, when you look back at Christianity and how detrimental it is to our people, you look at the law of the land. You break the law on the road, say for example, you break a law driving, right? And when you go to court, they pull up the law and they apply the law. You have to pay the penalty. It's the same thing. So how can we say then that the law is done away with? So what is there to really keep us in line? Christianity is really hypocrisy.
You know, then I mean, we'll be on top for sure. But it's because the Most High is watching over us for evil, why we're getting beaten. Yeah. So, you know, don't follow them that law can't save you and so it's the law, keeping the law is what brings out them good spiritual the fruit of the spirit. Fruit of the spirit comes in you naturally when you keep them laws. And Paul, Christ, none of the apostles never speak against the law. What they were speaking against is the judgment of the law, or the workings of the law, or the letter of the law. Right? Not the law itself. All right, so with that, pass the class to Officer Arayala.
Clap it up.
This somebody named Squeaky Clean. Yeah, you will just as no, you just a squeaky squeak. But you squeaky. Nobody said thumbs down, ISUPK trash. Oh, this must be somebody who has gotten wrong a judgment against them. So we are squeaky clean. There were those who spoke against Christ, against God, from the time of Jeremiah. Yeah, and God said, you know, I'm not going to fight you, but I'll show you. But you said that and I said this. We're going to see which one of we're going to start. Right, squeaky clean? Yeah. Hush. So go. Yes, go on, Officer Ryan.
Look, yeah, I'm named Squeaky Clean, and I bet him no squeaky clean.
Obviously, not.
Yeah.
I soon show him how dirty he did. Officer Ryan, your time.
Clap it up.
Yeah.
These are the ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Room for a new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18 and 21, Malachi 3 and 8 to 10, means a tenth in the Hebrew, Ma'aya Shara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund free will offering for priests, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations, the memorial of blowing trumpets, the 21st of September. Remind Akyam and Akwasyam to check the bulletin board in the hallway if anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirt, pant, headband, and scarf. And with that, we're going to give Officer a Bada one courtesy salute. Men of Israel, I Madiam. I Madiam Shabbat. I Madiam. Barak. Yehovah Hashem Yehoshai Barakatah.
Yehovah Hashem Yehoshai.
Yad Yamata. Sa, which means turn and face the sisters for one courtesy salute. Men of Israel, I Madiam. I Madiam Shabbat. I Madiam. Barak. Yahweh Shema Eladan Bahashim Yehoshai.
Yahweh Shema Eladan Bahashim Yehoshai.
Yad Yamata. Class dismissed.
Alright, can take it out, Father.
Yeah, got one concept.
Alright,
All right. All right, so Shalom. Yahweh Hashem Yehoshai Barakatah. All right, so to everybody watching, remember, like, share, subscribe. You know, I think already. Leave your questions in the chat. And with that, shalom.